It's right up my street, it's my boulevard. It's right up my Straza, oh my God. It's garden right up there, ah, it's right up my podcast.
Ooh. Welcome to Right Up My Podcast. This is Gwen Watson.
And this is Kate White.
And this is the podcast in which we talk to people about the sometimes bonkers things that make them feel good. And in this episode, we are talking to sound therapist Farzana Ali all about sound therapy. It is fascinating, let me tell you. But first, though, a bit of whiffle waffle.
How are you doing this week, Glenn? Glenn? It's because we've just been talking about Glennon Doyle. Sorry, let me try that again.
No, I'm leaving that in. You've just called me Glenn. We have witnesses that after all this time, you don't know my name.
Who is this beautiful lady on Zoom with me?
Don't you try and flatter me.
She looks like a Glenn to me.
The number of times I've been called Glenn in my lifetime, it's I could at least afford to buy a coffee if I had £1 for every time. How are you, Kate?
I'm good, thank you very much. I feel I should give some context. Yeah, the reason why I just called you Glenn is Gwen and I were just talking off air about Glennon Doyle's book, Untamed.
Yes.
And how many wonderful kind of standalone quotes there are in it. I feel like I could wallpaper my house with the sort of the lovely little lines and segments that she has that you just read and think, oh, yes, I want to incorporate that into my brain, please.
Yeah. I love Glennon Doyle, and I was following her on Insta before, and because she's good friends with Elizabeth Gilbert, so I found her through following Elizabeth Gilbert, who is the author of Eat, Pray, Love and The Big Magic, and she wrote this book called Untamed, which came out last year. Yeah, I think it was last year, wasn't it? And so. She's also a good friend of Brené Brown's. So you know you're in good hands, basically, with those ladies. Yeah. And I've just been rereading it. So that's why we were talking about it. And it's a book that you can easily reread. And I think actually it was better the second time because it had such massive, massive hype. The first time I thought, oh my God, this is going to be life-changing. I can't wait to pore over every single word of it. And so nothing can live up to that sort of hype. So it was still great and enjoyable, but I was a bit like, meh. So this time reading it, I was like, oh, I love it. And I love everything and everything resonates. And she's my hero.
Fantastic. I was just thinking when you were saying this sort of group of friends with these amazing, how would you describe them, sort of self-help guru women. Do you reckon they all hang out together and just share their wonderful words of wisdom and speak in fantastic sound bites and generally put the world to rights? Yeah,
I think they do. That's in my fantasy world. But in Untamed, actually, she talks about when she met Liz, her mate Liz, who is Elizabeth Gilbert, and they met at a book launch or something, didn't they, or some literary gala, and I just love those little moments, and you're like, oh, I know you both, and this is, or know-ish, you both, and that's so lovely that you two have met and are in each other's lives, and also the story of how she met her wife, Abby Wambach, also at one of these events. I think she's an ex-professional footballer now. She is bloody hot. I've got a massive crush on her. And,
have you?
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, I think she's amazing and she's funny and interesting, but she doesn't kind of light my fire.
She doesn't ding your bells.
She doesn't dong my bell.
Well, crushes aside, I love them both. They are awesome.
Yeah, they are ultimate beautiful couple.
And bloody hilarious. Love them. But anyway, talk about rereading books as well. I'm also rereading Jennifer, I don't know if I can get her surname right, Jennifer Weigel, I think her surname is.
Okay.
As she wrote, I'm spiritual, damn it. And that is another great read. And I read that years ago, and it's really nice rereading a book and thinking, oh, I now know all these references she's making, and I now know all these authors she's talking about. And so that's another one I highly recommend. Great books. And it's nice to reread a good one, isn't it?
It really is. I love it. I always have this debate about when I finished a book whether I keep it or whether I give it away or charity shop or a friend.
I love this.
And there are certain books that I cannot give away. Even if I never read them again, it's just the knowledge that they're on my bookshelf and that I've got them that feels really lovely and comforting. And then there are other books that just go straight into the, giveaway
charity
pile.
shop. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
absolutely.
yeah. I love that because I'm a giver away of books.
Are you? All
Because I've
books,
travelled
doesn't
a
matter.
lot. No, fiction I generally give away. Fiction has got to be really, really good for me to keep it. But mostly what I keep is non-fiction. And I've got most of my books are all self-help books, and they're all, do we call them self-help now? Self-development, personal development books?
Yeah, self-help feels somehow derogatory, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. Personal development. How about that?
Yeah,
so,
that sounds good.
A lot of them I've kept because I've not finished them yet, but a lot of them I've kept because, you want to read them again or you want to refer to them again.
And actually some books in that genre you can dip in and out of or reread a particular chapter without feeling like you've got to commit from cover to cover.
Yeah.
I've just started a wonderful book called Where the Crawdads Sing. And
oh my God, I love that.
I am loving it so much. It is so brilliant. I love all the description of this area in southern America, South Carolina, is it? North Carolina, the swamps and the mangroves, and it focuses on this girl who lives in this area in a shack in the swamps, and it's just the most, I'm quite early on, so I haven't really got into the storyline yet, but it's the most wonderful description of this geographical space. And a place that I would love to visit as well, because it feels so other, it feels so different to any landscape that we get in Europe, really.
Yeah. It's very uniquely Southern America, isn't it?
It really is.
That is Where the Crawdads Sing by Delia Owens. And it's one of those that as you're reading it, you get such visuals and you can really imagine it being turned into a movie. Like I can see it as a film because read it, you see it visually, don't you, as you're reading?
Completely. You get these real visual images. And it is being turned into a film, I think.
Is it?
I was just looking it up now and it says Where the Crawdads Sing is an upcoming American drama film directed by Olivia Newman.
Oh, I tell you what, it better be bloody good because that is a bloody good book.
It's going to be produced by Reese Witherspoon.
Yes, Reese Witherspoon. Now, she is another one.
Yes.
If we were having the perfect dinner party and on it is Glennon Doyle, Liz Gilbert, Brené Brown, Oprah, perhaps, although I'd be too nervous to eat my dinner. But Reese Witherspoon, she's amazing. She does great movie choices. She
really does.
Yeah, she supports female authors. She's always about female, like giving strong leads, strong, good female characters. I've got a lot of respect for her.
Definitely.
You have made my day telling me that.
Yes,
yes,
girl.
That.
She's definitely one of those people who feel like she's really kind of come into her own power in the last 10 years or however long it's been.
Yes. And what else have you been doing to make yourself feel good, Kate?
So in England, since we last recorded, the lockdown measures have been changed slightly. So we're now allowed to meet up with other people, 6 other people outside.
Oh, my goodness.
And it's been such a treat. We've just come off the back of the Easter long weekend. And I met up with my brother and his wife. I met up with some friends in various different people's gardens. Oh, my goodness. It was like a medicine. After each of these meetups, I just had such a spring in my step and a kind of lightness to my soul. It was just brilliant.
Oh.
And to see my brother, because my brother doesn't live near me, so it was such a treat. We didn't get to see each other during lockdown, so it was so good to see him.
Oh.
And then sitting around fire pits in people's gardens, drinking margaritas. My friend, everywhere she rocks up to, she brings this plastic bottle full of homemade margaritas. And they're so good.
That is a good friend.
That
is a really good skill to have.
Bring on the margaritas. So, yeah, it was such a pleasure. But there is one downside of this reintegrating other human beings into our life. Is that I now have a streaming cold.
Do you know what? I was going to say this because I've been socialising this weekend as well. We have the same lift-offs of our lockdowns. But I've just one weekend of mixing with people and I have a cold. And I was like, oh, my God, I haven't had one of these for over a year.
I know. It's crazy, isn't it?
Did I forget about washing my hands for a day? Maybe I did. Like, why have we got colds again?
Yeah. And I'm pretty sure I didn't kind of do anything gross, like sort of lick any door handles or anything along those lines. It's like, why?
Because we've learnt that now, haven't you, Kate, not to do that?
This has been one of the big plus points of the pandemic. I've quit that habit.
It's right up my podcast.
So, So, this is episode 11, all about sound therapy.
That's right. And in this episode, we are going to talk to a really interesting lady called Farzana Ali. Farzana is a sound therapist, and she uses sound for meditation using crystal bowls, Himalayan bowls and drum journeys. And she's going to tell us a bit about what sound therapy actually is.
And just in case you are thinking to yourself, but what do these drums sound like or these bowls sound like? Then, hey, we're here for you. Farzana has done a sample of gong for the Right Up My Podcast listeners, and we'll be playing that for you in our try it out section. First, though, we asked her, what is sound therapy?
So sound therapy is a holistic treatment that uses sonic waves to put you into a different state of relaxation, using therapeutic grade instruments such as crystal singing bowls, Himalayan bowls, drums, gongs, that allows you to fall into a deeper state of meditation. So the type of sound therapy I practice includes a reflective consultation at the start, where we speak to the client and find out what are their worries or what are they working on. If it's kind of, but it's not like psychotherapy, so it's not kind of telling me exactly what the issues are, more just about how it feels and presents itself in your body.
Okay.
Once the client is then on a table, relaxed, I would then take whatever instrument I've chosen for them and then work through whichever areas they've said that they might feel tension. So with the drums or the Himalayan bowls, you can do a physical, there's much more of a physical aspect to it.
Okay.
So you would be using it near or around their body so they can feel the physical vibrations of the musical instrument kind of penetrating through them.
Right.
And then with the bigger instruments such as the crystal bowls, it's about using that sound in a therapeutic way to kind of lull them into a much more relaxed state and take them into a deeper rested state where they can work through any issues that they have or any kind of release any tension that they might be holding.
Okay. Let's go back to the instruments quickly. So you mentioned, is this the same as gong therapy? Are these all variations of a gong?
Yes. So with gong therapy, you're just using the gong, but sound therapy includes gong therapy, but it kind of includes a wider range of instruments. That's just the difference there, yeah. So I use drums, Himalayan bowls, which are a type of gong, if you like, and crystal singing bowls.
How do you decide which instrument is best for each individual person?
When it comes to instrument selection, it depends on what the client has presented with. If you've never had sound therapy before, sometimes the crystals, while they are probably one of the most relaxing pieces of kit in my instruments in my kit, it can sometimes be a bit too much.
Oh.
Whereas the Himalayan bowl is very, very soft. It's what we call the sonic cuddle of the music sound therapy world.
I want a sonic cuddle.
So it's a warm, gentle instrument, whereas the crystals can sometimes be a bit icy and cold.
Explain to me what the crystals are. I'm having trouble visualising. Are you bashing a crystal, or have you got a crystal? Is it another bowl made of crystals?
They are bowls of various sizes made of crystals.
Okay.
And I use the frosted quartz bowls, not the colourful alchemy ones.
Watching your Instagram feed, some of the videos where you're playing them, from what I can see, they're very aesthetically pleasing, aren't they?
Yeah, they are very beautiful. So those are the ones that I use. So they're made of quartz, and the sound that they emit is just a very pure tone. So they obviously have different ways of how they benefit you, but it's just kind of deciding what that person needs. So for example, if I feel like someone's a little bit stuck rhythmically in their life, as in they're kind of plodding along. They're just, a little bit rut. Kind of, in a rut. They're kind of stuck a little bit. Then drums are really good because it helps change the pace of what they're feeling. Equally, drums are super relaxing because the first sound that we hear as forming human beings is the mother's heartbeat. So if someone is super anxious and super stressed out, playing a heartbeat rhythm on a deep drum can help take them into that really, really relaxed state. It's almost like how if you do a child's pose in yoga, because that's, obviously we lose flexibility as we get older, but it's taking you back to something that is so innately reminiscent of a much safer time.
Right. Okay.
So why do I feel teary?
Oh, Gwen.
Oh my God, we're 1 minute in. Carry on.
Yeah. Well, I was just going to ask, let's talk a bit about what's happening then in the body when people hear these tones.
So sound therapy works by a process called sympathetic resonance, and that basically means that whatever you're hearing is having an impact on your brain waves. Unlike traditional meditation, which a lot of people find very difficult, where you're having to actively learn a skill to quieten that monkey mind, sound therapy is a passive holistic treatment. You don't have to do anything. I do all the hard work for you. So the way that I would play would take you from a beta dominant brainwave activity to an alpha dominant brainwave activity. So to explain that a little bit better, at the moment we're speaking, we're engaged, we're in a beta dominant brainwave active state. We're concentrating, I'm thinking about what I'm saying, you're listening. That's that kind of concentration mode. When we're relaxing, when we're about to go to sleep, when we're having a relaxing bath, that's when our brain switches to an alpha dominant brainwave state. In that state, your brain kind of reorganizes information. It's kind of like a download time. It reorganizes. It's also a time when creativity is heightened. So if you've ever thought when you've been in the shower and you've had a really good idea pop into your head, it's because you're not consciously thinking in the shower. Again, you're in that alpha dominant brainwave state and you're relaxed, and so productivity and creativity can start to flow in a different way. These are therapeutic grade instruments that I use. So as I'm playing them in a specifically therapeutic way, what that does is that your brain starts, through the process of sympathetic resonance, starts matching the sound waves from the music. That's basically how it works.
Wow.
Oh my goodness.
I hope that makes sense.
Well, it does,
no, it
but
does.
I definitely have questions.
Yes, so many questions. Gwen, you start.
This is amazing. No, I was going to say that state that you're talking about, as we start to relax. And I've heard about that before. That's why sleep is so important, because it's during that time that our mind does its file management and files away, and that's where our memories are created and stuff, isn't it? And that's, I guess that is often why thoughts pop into our head the moment we're trying to drop off to sleep as well. And we're like, not now, brain. These instruments that you are playing, so you're saying that you are using them for for people's different reasons that they come to you, or the different ailments. Is it that they have a different tone or a different resonance? And are you saying, I don't know if I'm asking two different questions here, but is it that it gets you in your brain into that state?
So it does get your brain into that alpha dominant state.
Are they all doing that? Are all the instruments, regardless of which one you use, are they all getting you into that alpha? Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And you mentioned therapeutic grade instruments. Yes. So I couldn't go and pick up a bucket and bash it with a stick and it would have the same effect.
That's correct. So
I don't know why that wouldn't work, Kate.
No,
a heightened example just to prove the point.
So, like, because music can be relaxing. We all know that. If you're listening to a song that you really enjoy, a song that you really love, it that can help relax you. You know, music is really emotive anyway. It's like when a fighter's about to go into a boxing ring and that track that they've chosen comes on, and it amps them up, and in the same way that you really can't be bothered to go for a run, even though there's nothing else to do in a pandemic, and you're just kind of at home. You know, you can put on a track that will get you into that mood. Music is highly emotive. However, with sound therapy, the difference is you're using sound rather than music, and music is constructed sound. So here we're taking everything apart. It's like the ingredients of a cake rather than the final product, and we're using those pure tones, those kind of stripped back notes to help kind of take you further and deeper into a relaxation. There's universal notes that are more sonically pleasing, that when you've stripped it back from everything else, it's much more pleasurable to your ear, to your brain. And again, it can't be too structured. So even when I'm playing notes, when I put certain notes together, it's very harmonically pleasing to your ear. So that helps you with the relaxation, but it's not too structured. So because as soon as it becomes too structured, your brain starts to engage a little bit more. That's why if you're walking by the river or by the sea, that sounds relaxing. Yes, you have the melody of the waves crashing, but it's not too structured. So your brain can't grab onto a melody as such.
That's really interesting, because I find, and I know this is slightly different as well, but when I work, I like to work with music, because if I work to silence, I get distracted. The silence itself is too loud for me. But if I work to music, my brain latches onto it. So I have to work to something that is kind of just a sort of unstructured tones. So it fills the silence but doesn't grab my attention. And I guess that's a similar thing to what you're talking about here.
Yeah, 100%.
Very interesting.
100%. You know, sometimes you can find on Spotify the Wales kind of well music and things like that. So you can't really grab onto any melody or anything specifically to kind of take away your attention.
Yes.
One of the benefits of sound therapy is that it takes you into an altered state of consciousness. So that can be experienced in many different ways. So that's where some clients might experience that when they're listening to the sounds, they see different colours. They might see rolling scenes of kind of like images coming in and out. They could feel like they're having an out-of-body experience. And so sound therapy can take you into those kind of altered states. And being in that altered state is again shown to be quite good for your mental health and for allowing your brain to process the kind of experiences that are happening to you both consciously and unconsciously.
Something nice to make yourself feel good inside. You deserve it. Yes, you do. You deserve it. Yes. Call a friend. Have a drinky. Make a tower out of toilet rolls. Yes. Sing a song out of tune. Make a meal, one you've never tried before. Buy a jumper. Oh, I did a there. Gather all your best best ideas, nicest ideas into a poem and give them to a stranger in the park.
So while you're lying there passively listening to it, it's putting us into that state, that state that you have before sleep. What is the aim of this moment? Is it to get us into a meditative, sleepy state? Is it then doing something else to our bodies?
So when you're in that deeply relaxed state, I guess your mind has time to process what's been happening. So sometimes I see with clients that they don't quite know why they've come. They're a bit anxious. And then when they're in that state, they'll start thinking about a parent or an old relationship or something that they haven't consciously brought into the session but has kind of popped into their head when they're in that chilled out space. And that's where you can work to figure out what the issue is, dig a little bit deeper and help them release it. But it's not just a mental thing, because I have clients who will be lying there and you see a physical release. So as I mentioned before with the drums and the Himalayan bowls, you can play them on the body, and as the vibrations go through, it's helping to shift a bit of energy, it's helping to shift a little bit of tension that they might be holding. And we all hold different issues in different places. To give you an example, I know that if I'm ever stressed out, I hold it all in the sternum. It's, for me, it's kind of right in the middle. For some other people, it's in their gut, it's in their tummy, it's in their shoulders, it's in their fingertips. And so what you do is, depending on if they've come in with more of a physical or an emotional situation that they want to deal with, I would then, if it's much more physical, if it's presenting itself in a much more physical way, I would then play, say, the Himalayan bowls or a drum near that area, and you can feel the vibrations.
Is the drum actually touching their body, or it's just close to them?
The drum doesn't touch you. The Himalayan bowls, and I've got different size bowls, and I've got one that I would use for massage, which is a little bit smaller and lighter than some of the bigger ones, obviously. Those, and you play in a certain way to ensure that it's relaxing. And obviously you would do a pressure check beforehand to make sure your client was comfortable with that. But the drum never touches you.
Okay, so the Himalayan bowls do touch you?
Yes.
And the drums don't?
Yeah. The drums don't touch you, but I can guarantee you that you've never felt something as relaxing as the vibrations going through you when someone's drumming near you. Wow. It's a bit like, obviously this isn't so relaxing, but if you're at a concert or a festival, RIP those days, but when you're at those, when you're at a concert or a festival and you're standing a bit close to a speaker,
yes,
and you can feel that vibration, it's like that, but relaxing.
Right.
I was just going to say, I feel really relaxed just actually listening to you talk about it. I don't think there's something about your manner and your tone that's kind of sending me off.
I was going to say, Jonathan Hoban, who we interviewed about walking therapy, he was saying the same thing, that it's when you get into that kind of relaxed state, which he achieves through walking and being mindful of his surroundings without any of the distractions that, talking on the phone or texting or etc. He was saying that is when your mind starts to process maybe those unprocessed issues. And exactly like you were saying, that people might come in not knowing what exactly they're in there for, and then something pops up as they get into that state. So that is often that's often such an important step, isn't it? The shining a light on the thing that needs processing, and it's often just paying attention to it, isn't it? Because obviously you're not doing therapy with that person. You're getting them to just look at what's coming up for them.
And it's and I highly recommend psychotherapy. I think it's an excellent tool, but not everyone is always ready to speak about something, and not everyone is comfortable immediately to kind of reveal their feelings. I see an interesting dynamic with the men that come in for treatments. Usually not always, but sometimes, having been pushed to it by the female in their life. But But I think, you know, with sound therapy, it's not as daunting because you don't have to sit there and talk about your feelings. And yet, you know, I've seen people who are genuinely shocked by what has come up for them and who they've gone on to think about, or when you see them for the following week, or, you know, for the next treatment, whenever that is, you know, they've been thinking about something that they haven't thought about, or they admit something that they didn't think was bothering them, and it actually does.
Yeah.
So it's kind of allowing it's a softer approach into looking at what might be going on, and it's a look inward.
So this can probably be quite an emotional experience for people then.
Oh, 100%. I've had people who have sat there and sobbed their eyes out, who have been so moved by whatever realization they've kind of come to. I've had people who, I mean, there's one client that's popped into my head actually, that within the space of 4 weeks, she even looked like a different person.
Wow.
Really?
Of all the people I've seen so far, she's probably one of the people I'm the most proud of as a practitioner. She just looked like a different person. She wasn't sleeping well, she was stressed out, she was just completely in this state of deep anxiety. And I mean, even talking about her, I can feel that I'm getting the shakes of it, because it was such a special client to see her transformation.
So she really shifted stuff.
Oh yeah. I wouldn't even have believed it was the same person, because from her mannerisms to how she sat, to how she held herself, to the way she conversed, it had completely changed. She was just happier, more relaxed. She was sleeping better. She was more confident in what she wanted. She felt more focused.
Amazing.
It really is amazing. So I assume during lockdown you've not been able to have these face-to-face appointments. So are you still able to have these treatments with people via the power of Zoom or equivalent?
Yeah, I mean, with offering sessions digitally, that has been possible in terms of relaxation, but I wouldn't do that deep therapeutic work online. I need to be in the room with you. I need to be able to see what's happening to you. When you're having a therapeutic treatment, it's also about sometimes being a little bit uncomfortable in the sounds that you're hearing. You can't, you know, in the same way as if you go for a massage, it can't just be really lovely kind of...
We got to do some deep work in there. We got to push some thumbs in.
Yeah. Every so often you've got to get in there with a knot. It's a little bit uncomfortable, but afterwards there's a release, and that's one of the kind of foundations of the sound therapy that I practice, where you would lead a client through a slightly testing piece of sound, make them a little bit uncomfortable, and then the release would come afterwards, when you would go back to a more harmonious note or a more harmonious kind of way of playing.
Okay. So you obviously do one-to-one therapy. Do you also do it as a group? Because I've experienced, the only time I've experienced gong therapy was at festivals.
Yeah.
And the first time, gonna say, didn't love it, but I'd gone to bed at about 5 a.m. at Glastonbury, and we'd crawled out the tent sometime mid-morning, laid down in the green fields just at the moment when a gong bath started up behind us, and we were like, good Lord, have mercy. But the next time, we deliberately, at a different festival, with the intention of going to get a gong bath, and we were in this massive tent, everybody lying in their beautiful sunny day outside, and it was amazing. It was quite kind of transcendental in that you're taken to a different place in that moment, aren't you? So is this something you do with groups?
Yeah, with groups you're just focused on kind of relaxation. From the experience that you've just mentioned, while there was obviously lots of other variables, it's also about finding someone who plays in a way that resonates with you personally. In the same with like any other type of therapy, you've got to make sure that your therapist kind of understands you. With the group setting, it is just about deep relaxation. You wouldn't be working through any you wouldn't play in a certain way that would kind of make anyone feel uncomfortable, because you're there for a much more, holistic, relaxed kind of feeling.
So where does it all come from then? Where did this theory of sound therapy originate from?
So sound therapy is something that is thousands and thousands of years old, and it's been seen in those kind of ancient cultures and traditions, like native indigenous populations. You have a lot of drum work there, the shamanic drumming. There's a lot of sound associated with types of rituals. So whether it's ayahuasca or cacao ceremonies, so it's been something that isn't as well researched as it should be, but it's always been there. And it's the same way how the forest bathing, and how relaxing that is because of the sight and the smells, but actually that rustling of the leaves in the trees is also deeply relaxing. So nature already provides that for us. It's so symbiotic with our own relationship with nature. It's kind of always been present. It's just that we haven't, up until 25 years ago, we just haven't studied it in a more scientific way.
Okay. So when somebody comes to you with a physical ailment,
yes.
Like I think I'm down with what it's doing to us mentally.
Yeah.
But also so somebody's come to you and they've got a bad back, or they've would somebody literally come to you with a bad back, or with an actual physical ailment, or is it that they come to you and they're like, I'm stressed and I'm feeling it in my shoulders, and then you would play directly to that area of the body.
Mm-hmm.
So are the vibrations, so you're talking about the vibrations that we're feeling, what are the vibrations doing in our body then? How is that helping?
So when we talk about the vibrations and using the instruments on the body, that's part of a discipline of vibroacoustics. So that's where the vibrations are going through you, and it works in a similar way to kind of other types of massage, I guess. It's just where the vibrations are going through your muscles. It's allowing your muscle to release tension. I personally don't treat back pain or things like that. Like that's not what I specialize in. I've done a little bit of work with pain management, and that's different. And where it works for those cases is that when you're flooding the neurotransmitters with a sound, with a constant sound or a vibration, it's almost like overriding the pain message. So that's where I've had a client, who's suffered with like chronic back and leg pain, say that after a session he felt like he'd taken a painkiller.
Oh wow. And then does that have long-term effects?
At the moment, I'm not sure the validity of how it would affect you long term, because again, like I say, I don't deal with that many people who come in with that type of pain management.
Sure.
But definitely people who have got chronic conditions can benefit from sound therapy.
But from a wellness point of view, it definitely does have lasting effects.
Oh yeah, 100%.
And a cumulative effect.
100%, 100%. I've had people who, because I think that's the thing, it's also one of those therapies, you don't have to only be stressed and anxious to come and have it, to come and see me or someone like me. I've had people who are almost addicted to that euphoric feeling that they get in the treatment.
Oh really?
Yeah. I've
wow.
had clients who have had to touch the therapy bed midway through a treatment to make sure that they were still where they were and they weren't floating, because they felt like they had started to float. I've had clients who have described the sound coming in as kind of maple syrup, and then just kind of falling all over them and just wrapping them up, and it makes them feel warm and supported and comfortable. And so you don't have to be dealing with something. You can just kind of be looking to improve your overall wellness or your overall mental health to enjoy this.
So as promised earlier, Farzana created a couple of samples of a gong therapy session for us, for me and Kate to try it out ourselves. We're going to play a snippet of one of them for you now. It is a crystal gong that's being bonged. And to hear both of the samples in their full length, then head over to our Patreon page. Meanwhile, turn up the volume, close your eyes and enjoy.
Thank you so much to Farzana. And if you want to find out more about Farzana and the work that she does and listen to some of the amazing recordings that she does, she's got a really active and engaged Instagram account. So you can look her up at The Sound Therapist on Instagram and you will find out all sorts of wonderful things about her there.
So, gong baths, Kate. So how did you get on?
I found it deeply relaxing.
Ooh.
And I found that I had a real physical reaction to it. My body felt very heavy, very still. And there was something about the music that kind of stopped my mind wandering to other thoughts and other processes. But this is going to sound like a bit of a kind of potentially dicky thing to say.
Oh my God, I love a sentence that starts like that. Please say something potentially dicky.
Trigger warning there. I feel like I'm quite sensitive to sound because if ever I'm in a room and the music just doesn't fit my mood or doesn't fit how I feel the mood of the room is, I get really tensed and stressed. And I feel like, well, if I've got control over the music, I have to find a rhythm or a beat or whatever that fits with the energy that I am feeling. And,
no, this is
and
the
then
thing, though, isn't it?
Yes, yeah. And there have been times, like experiences in my life where I've done something and the music, something that's been really intensely physical and the music's not been right and I've not been able to focus until I've changed the music to a rhythm that suits me and then I can cope with the thing that's going on. That's really abstract. I'm talking about childbirth here, but I don't really want to go into a sort of tedious childbirth story that nobody really wants to hear.
I did not know what you were talking about there. I was like, what activity are you talking about? Oh, okay, pushing a baby out. I think it's quite important that the music is right in that scenario, isn't it?
But also what's interesting is that she wasn't... What surprised me about talking to her about sound therapy is that it's not actually music in the way that we think of it. There's not a tune or a hook or a riff or a particular rhythm, is there? It's more carefully selected sounds.
Yes. And that's deliberate, isn't it? Because she was saying about you don't want to get engaged with the music. Like, you don't want your brain to get engaged and be thinking about a memory or be dancing along or taken off. What you want is to have the opposite of that, don't you? You want it to focus your mind. So, which enables your mind to then, no, the opposite of focusing. What am I trying to say? What you want is to be able to focus on other things.
Yeah. So the whole idea is that sort of thinking part of your brain isn't activated, and music can activate that thinking part of your brain, whereas the tones that they choose are supposed to relax as opposed to make you feel.
Yeah.
Wow, that was a really incoherent explanation.
I know. Well, I'm about to continue it because I was speaking to a friend of mine the other day, and he works as an OT, an occupational therapist, and other stuff. But he works with people with physical and learning disabilities, and they use sound baths for like people with autism, because when amidst all the chaos and that his patients' brains are trying to or struggling with dealing with, the sound really centres them and then enables them to do a focused task. And I was like,
very interesting.
That's exactly what we're saying, isn't it? That's what she said.
That's very interesting. How did you find it?
I had a lovely time because the sun was shining. I'm not feeling particularly well at the moment, and it was really great to finish some work and just go and lie down on my bed with the sun on my face, listening to the gong baths.
Yes.
And I listened to the ones Farzana had done for us, and I think we're going to put them on our Patreon, aren't we? And they were absolutely lovely. She was using a crystal bowl, and then there was some crystal bowl donging, and they were really lovely and super relaxing. And I found they're only short clips, and they went by really, really quickly. Like the 5-minute one was gone in a flash, and I was like, I want longer examples of this. So then I started going through YouTube, and I mean, if you want to just get lost for a few hours, there are literally videos there that are like over 7.5 hours long.
What?
And I know, and suddenly you're open to a whole world of different types of gongs, and one of them there was 8 gongs going at once, and etc. So I tried the 8 gong, and my goodness, at one point I felt like I had Formula One going on in my head. Like,
oh wow, too many gongs.
Oh my goodness, the sound was super intense.
Wow.
Yeah, and
you're
so
more of a one dong girl. One dong. I hate that word dong. Can we not?
Do you mean gong?
I mean gong.
Yes, you're right. I am a one dong girl. So
what a relief.
So the 8 gong was way too much for me, and I did find some of it was just super intense, and it was like ringing my brain. Like I felt, when it kind of gets quite loud, and there was a couple of moments on hers as well, and it's like it really feels like it's, I don't know, it kind of felt like it was zinging in my brain somehow, and it was just not relaxing.
Interesting.
Yeah, I will say that I've had gong baths before in person, and that was a very different experience, and I really felt physical reactions to it, and really felt a kind of felt super relaxed and felt the vibrations, and had and in that instance I'm like 100% I love a gong bath, but I wasn't getting that feeling through the headphones, disappointingly.
Well, that is a really interesting point, the difference between doing these things in person and remotely, and that you had a very different experience to that. And thank goodness we're going to be able to start actually going back and experience these things in the flesh, so to speak.
Yeah.
When you have a massage, do you like to have music on, or do you like to have it completely quiet?
I like to have music on.
Yeah.
I
was just wondering if actually, in general, because often the music that they play in a massage can be a bit more into this realm, can't it? And I was wondering if in general you just don't enjoy those kind of sounds.
Well, no, I do love the sounds, I have to say. But when she said to us, didn't she, that in the sample she was giving us, she was just going to give us a gentle one, and that it can be really intense, and it can push you to an area of discomfort.
Yes, that's very true. I'd forgotten that she said that. And that's an intentional thing to push you to that point.
Yeah.
And that different instruments, different of these therapeutic grade instruments, are better for different people who are in different mental states.
Yes.
It'd be interesting to experiment with that and find if there was one that actually thought, oh no, this is for me. This is the one that works for me.
Yes, and perhaps because I was tired and not feeling very well, actually what I needed in that moment was something very gentle. And that's why her crystal bongs with the bonging was just perfect sound. But that one, it did get a bit intense for me. Did you find that in her one?
I didn't, no. I just found it deeply relaxing, and I felt this weird heaviness about my body, like I was just deep on the bed that I was lying on, if that makes any sense. Yeah, I found it very relaxing, and it did make me really want to go and do one in person, though, go and have a proper session.
Yes. And then, of course, what she was saying about that it becomes a bit of a transcendental or a kind of a hallucinogenic experience, and that people feel that they were actually physically floating off the bed. It's like, what kind of sound combination achieves that?
Yeah. Completely. And how long do you have to be there for that? And I also like the idea of the ones where she puts the bowls actually physically on you, and the vibrations from the sound, you feel them through your body. That I'm very intrigued about. I'd like to go and try.
Yeah, I think it's fascinating. And obviously you were wearing very good headphones. I think that's important, isn't it?
Yeah, that is true, because then you get that depth of experience. The sound is so deep and rich.
Yeah.
And it blocks out all other sound as well, which does help.
Yeah. And I should point out to the listener that you and I have identical headphones as well. So actually we had an identical auditory experience. So it's really interesting that we experienced it differently. And it could be due to, any number of factors of that day, or it could be due to the fact that it just suits you better.
Absolutely. And that's what I love about all these things that we're trying through the course of this podcast, that not everything will be for everyone. And that's completely okay. The whole point is finding something that works for you and your own unique person that you are, and the unique triggers that help you to relax or help you to feel good. So would you do it again?
I feel like, because I usually come out of our episodes going, yes, I'll definitely do this again. This
every day.
Yes. This is possibly the first time I've been like, actually, I don't know if I will. Like, I 100% would do a gong bath again. And I'm actually really interested in that she does one-to-one as well. And so you get a tailored experience. And I 100% believe in the value of it and the impact of it.
Yes.
I feel like I want to give it another try, perhaps when I'm not when I'm feeling better, and to see if it works for me. But it might just be that for me, I need to have it live for it to work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
To get the full benefit from it.
Yeah. How about you, Kate?
I think I would. I think if I feel like I need to relax, I just want to have 5 minutes zoning out, I would find a video either on her Instagram account or somewhere else, and just chill out and listen to it. And I would find that really lovely and relaxing. And I definitely want to go and have an actual live experience, 100%.
Amazing. Because also for you, you've got a super, super busy life with work and kids and etc. Is it something that you find you can just go and steal away for 5 minutes?
That's true.
And it puts you into a real place of relaxation? Or do you think you need longer?
That's a really good point, because I do feel like the nature of having, as opposed to just sitting still for 5 minutes with no gongs going on in the background, I feel like introducing the sound almost fast tracks the relaxation for me. So I think if I had 5 minutes sitting somewhere comfy listening to those sounds, it would be way more relaxing than just 5 minutes sitting without the sounds. So it definitely intensifies and fast tracks that feeling of feeling relaxed for me.
Fantastic stuff. A good old dong and a bong for you.
A dong and a bong. That sounds wonderful.
And a gong.
Maybe we'll throw a gong in as well for good luck.
Bring on the gongs.
Thank you for listening to Write Up My Podcast. As always, you can get in touch with us with any feedback, thoughts, ideas, whimsical musings at writeupmypodcast@gmail.com. And you can follow us on Insta and Twitter at RightUpMy.
Don't forget to subscribe to us wherever you listen. And if you're on Apple, then please do drop us a review and a rating, because that makes us look good. And also, word of mouth. Please share with your friends, because we'd like your friends to hear us too.
And head on over to our Patreon page. You can find us at www.patreon.com/RightUpMyPodcast, where you'll find all sorts of exclusive content. You'll also find recordings of Farzana's sound baths that she did specially for Right Up My Podcast listeners, and lots of extra juicy bits and bobs as well. And thank you to our wonderfully talented team, whom without we could not function.
We literally could not. That is Andy Turvey, who manages to fit us into, he's probably one of the busiest voiceover artists we've ever met in our lives, and he still manages to squeeze us in. He does our editing. Andrew Grimes does the amazing music. Kat O'Brien is our content editor, and who has also been doing some lyric writing with Andrew G, and to Erica Francis George, our amazing resident artist.
And we'll be back in a couple of weeks where we'll be talking to Tim Snell all about Soma breathwork. And meanwhile, keep trying things
to make you feel good. Bye-bye.
Tell me, did you like the podcast, Brian?
No!
Oh.
If, unlike Brian, you thought our podcast was really great, then don't hold back. Like, subscribe, and tell your mate. But if, like Brian, you thought our podcast wasn't fun, then just keep quiet. Don't feel the need to tell anyone. We'd love to hear from you if you've got some thoughts to share. Such rich and lovely views that all should be aware of. But I hope you liked our podcast and you thought it was really great. And if you did, like, subscribe, and tell your mate. 'Cause we don't need grumpy pants bringing everybody down. No, we don't need negative Nellies making people frown. No. So I hope you liked our podcast and you thought it was really great. And if you did, like, subscribe, and tell your mate.